A critical report recommends Tasmania's stadium not be built, but the Premier doubles down on his pledge to meet AFL demands.
Hawthorn is ready to roll. Any fitness query settled at main training as the Hawks look to further their September run.
And the iconic moments from preliminary finals past. Adam Simpson and John Longmire on what it takes to survive the ultimate nerve jangler.
We've talked about is step into it, embrace all of it.
Get in the room and fix it.
It's unedifying for a senior coach to do that.
They're on the side of caution with the brain. Take the man off.
They played the best footy I've ever seen at the start of the season. And if you'd said Brisbane lift the cup, I would have said, of course they do.
It's the stuff that legends are made of.
What is holding the ball? I don't think I could answer it clearly right now.
I could do something wrong, and I need to go. And the board sacks me.
The fans love it, and with no fans, no 360, right?
Oh, I brought a little something for you, Gaz.
Jared, the modesty doesn't sit well with you. Well done. Well done.
Last night at the Football Media Awards, we were judged the most outstanding television program of the year. Just be gentle with that, because I left it in the custody of our tireless producer, Tim Hodges, who's the heart and soul of the program. Yes. Jake Events, who's our most outstanding recruit.
Surprised it got back here.
Two editors who cut all the packages that enthrall us as well as you at home. I don't know whether it's held together by sticky tape, but it's definitely unhygienic.
Something been in it.
Yes, indeed.
Well done. Good stuff, and well done. You and I fronted, but there's enormous work goes behind it, and it was a good night for the whole Fox Footy team.
It was. Anthony Hudson adjudged the best television caller, best opinion and analysis, Jordan Lewis, who closed his speech by saying he was adding another cup to his collection, which played really well with the anti-Hawthorn crew in the room. Clinton's Gribus with the Emerging Talent Award, Ruby Slisher, so that was tremendously popular. And Jason Dunstall became a life member. So last year, Jason inducted Sarah, and this year, Sarah inducted Jason, which was a beautiful circle of life.
No, well done.
So that's how we
What time did you get home for this morning?
Well,
Go straight through, did you, Jared?
Yeah, that's right, yes, you know my go. All right, here's what we've got lined up for you tonight. John Longmire and Adam Simpson have been stellar right through the year. Dave Hughes is going to join us. The emotional baggage of being a supporter, particularly at this time of year, and the prelim picks as we cast our eye toward these big games. Then midweek tackle with all the latest news, Lauren Wood, Corbin Middlemas and John Ralph. And then tomorrow night, if you really want to go deep, first crack preview, Ben Dixon, Lee Montagna and David King on these two prelims.
And the two prelims just shaped beautifully, Jared. We sat here last week, we couldn't wait. Well, on Friday night, MCG, two great rivals, commentary teams just stacked with a bit of a sprinkling of Geelong and a sprinkling of Hawthorn, and a game that I just can't wait to see. I honestly cannot wait to watch this one unfold. I sat and did a bit of work on it today, and it just shapes as an absolute belter. And then on Saturday, you go back to the home of footy, the Mecca, and Sarah heads up an outstanding team. Bucks has been seconded to give a little bit of Collingwood balance over there on Saturday night, and that is going to be an awesome event. So Fox Footy does it better than anyone else. We know that. So get yourself, if you're not at the game, which is going to be jammed, get yourself in front of a television. That will be outstanding.
All right, let's direct all our attention to those games now as we contemplate D-Day. The stage that awaits is epic, and it's dripping with consequences we've seen year upon year. These four stacked games and the thoughts of those who are heading there.
To me, preliminary final weekends are so loud. Out of the 98,000 that'll probably be there, probably 95,000 barrack for one of the teams.
They're bloody hard to win, and you never feel ready for the end, but prelims are especially hard when you know what's at the end of it.
It's one of those ones where you're so invested in the game, but as much as you don't want to admit, you've got half an eye on what's to come.
The noise for either team scoring is phenomenal. It's one of the great games to play in, so embrace the experience and enjoy everything that it brings, but don't forget it comes down to playing the right way at the right time.
An incredible week, one of the best weeks of your life, and then it can turn into one of the worst days, depending on the bounce of the ball and what the result is. So that's the agony and ecstasy of sport, and that's why we love it so much.
also know the weight of what comes with both a win and a loss.
And we're just looking forward to seeing how we go this week, enjoying the opportunity that we've created for ourselves and giving it our best shot. Who knows how far we can go, but we haven't got any limits on ourselves, that's for sure.
Those that were here will never forget what they saw.
It's so raw in the stands, it's so raw on the field and in the rooms in the aftermath. Embrace the experience were the wise words of Sam Mitchell ahead of these two games. So just before we get to our D-Days, we've made everyone else recount their preliminary final history. You played in the era where it was the one game, the repechage for the second semi-final and through, and then when it changed to two and these pair of grand final qualifiers.
Yeah, so that 88 one was, it occasionally bobs up on Fox Footy's replay screen. I sit down and watch it. It was a brutal, vicious game, and we would have been the biggest underdogs of recent times. So we got through that. I remember walking off thinking, shit, we're going to play in a grand final. I'd never been to one. That's how much of a surprise that was, and we probably played like it. And then the other, we had to go over and play a red-hot West Coast that won the final and in the middle of a Saturday afternoon at the Wacker, and they gave us a belting, and I can't remember much about it. I had very little contribution to make to the 98 one, and we lost that as well. So that's the way it goes. But it is a stunning game. When we did win one, and walking off the ground thinking, geez, there's a grand final coming. Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable.
All right, was your Wednesday D-Day for Aussie Broadband?
Yeah, so I'm turning my attention to Collingwood, and I went back and had a look at them. So that's their last 10 games with 5 wins, 5 losses has been well documented. The 5 wins are against the 14th place, 17th place, 11th, 18th and 12th. And the 5 losses were all against finals contenders. They were against the Crows, the Hawks, the Lions, the Dockers and the Suns. Now, they came out and beat the Crows, which was fantastic, by 24 points. But maybe, in retrospect, we look at that and go, they didn't handle the occasion. And take nothing away from Collingwood. I thought they were superb against Adelaide. So it's really interesting. Now, the form line coming in against this Brisbane Lions side, they'll go in as favourites, I think, the Magpies. But their form against the finals contenders in the back half. Now, things have changed. Tagoe, that man on the left, is a really significant part of what I'm talking about. Cox comes in, he hadn't played, so they've probably worked out what works best for them forward of the ball. I think they can win, Collingwood, but it's going to be a big watch, I reckon, on that Saturday night. And I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward to every part of the game, but I'm looking forward to watching Nick Dacos play again in a big preliminary final, and a young man by the name of Will Ashcroft that's just nipping at his heels. Yeah. He hasn't had I guess if Will was in Melbourne, I think we would be celebrating him more. He's got a Norm Smith medal to his name, Will Ashcroft. Thought he was just unbelievable against the Gold Coast Suns. His touch and his want to be involved in the big moments. He's got forward a bit. Asked Chris Fagan about him the other night. He said he's using his legs a bit more. He's been a bit more proactive. Hit the scoreboard here. And then Nick is Nick. Nick's the benchmark for any young player coming through. So to watch them both go at it, and I reckon at times they'll be head to head. And I know how competitive Nick is, and I reckon this bloke is every single bit as competitive as Nick Dacos. So to watch these two go will be a joy, as it will be to watch the whole game, but these two especially. That's what
Will's the Norm Smith medalist, and Nick might be days away from being the Brownlow medalist.
100%. So this is the future of our game for the next 10 years. These two blokes are going to be going at it against each other for the next 10 years, both individually, I suspect, and collectively from a team point of view. And we get front row seats on Saturday night.
So if one beat the other profoundly, what might it mean for the game?
Well, if Ashcroft was able to, not that he'll sit on Nick, but if he has a bigger influence than Nick, it could tilt it.
Yep.
I don't think that's a really big stretch, but I'm not betting against that bloke right there, the little champ. He's going to come out and have a big say in it. So that's what I've got. What about you?
Well, I'll go with Geelong because I know you're writing about Hawthorn. So Chris Scott takes his team to a 10th preliminary final, and in behind that is 3 wins and 6 losses. And Patrick Dangerfield last night, so he's been to 8 and he's 2 and 6, which illustrates for all the winning that's done just how hard it is to get through this last step. So last year they led substantially early and then they led again late, and it was just elusive for them at the end. I think it would have sat really heavily with them across the summer. They are a profoundly better team now than they were last year. They're favoured to win the flag from here, but to do that, you're going to have to beat your arch nemesis.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, Geelong haven't beaten Hawthorn in a knockout final since the 63 grand final.
Is that right?
The wins that they've had have been in qualifying finals, but not when it's been all on the line. So, and that will live with a few in the stands, I reckon. And then there's the Hawthorn side of it. And I know you've been writing this today and just delving deeper and deeper.
Oh, you can make the case for Hawthorn. And what's that game where you play your trump card? This is why you look at it and you go, OK, so they go in with Gunston, absolute ripping, and Geelong just pull out Cameron. And then you go, well, Sicily in ripping fat, and they just pull out Stewart. And then you go, well, what about Whateley? He's the most versatile. They go blitz halves. What about our smalls? Watson and Ginnivan and Moore been outstanding. They go Close and Stengel and Myers. They just have got trumps. And then they go, our big trump, Newcombe. And they go, OK, who do you want? You want Atkins? You want O'Sheen? You want blitz halves? You want O'Connor? They're well served. So I'm not saying they've got them covered. That's just on paper. And I would make the point I fell into the trap against the Giants on paper. I thought that the class factor might tell. They're more than on paper, Hawthorn. They play the game out on the field and they play it damn well. So I think this is going to the wire, Gerard.
Nice.
Right to the wire.
Is it 500 when we play trumps?
Trump, that's it. Yeah. That's it. What's don't get into the bowers.
That's right, left bower and right bower. All right, we'll talk the prelims with Simo and Horse coming up shortly. The other news of the day surrounded Tasmania. So you could take a view today that Tasmania got its coach and lost its stadium. That's only true from a certain point of view. The Tasmanian Planning Commission was due to lodge its report, and it was a scathing report. It simply recommended that the stadium should not be built. It found objections on the economic front, and it found objections on the aesthetic front, and seemingly everything else in between. So attention turned back to the Tasmanian Premier as to whether he would forge on, and forge on he will.
This report's not unexpected. Parliament will always, as I've said, have their say on this project. I understand some of the concerns in the community, but this is an opportunity that we cannot lose. This is an opportunity for Tasmania's future, and I'm as passionate about it today as I've ever been. I'm not surprised. I knew this would be a very challenging journey, but one that will be worth the journey in the end.
So he's got to hold his numbers together from here to deliver the stadium.
All right, let me ask you all the questions that people out there at home. So it was said that there was bipartisan support for this now. Is it too dramatic to say that this whole thing is in the hands of the opposition right now?
So the first step is to hold bipartisan support, and the Labor opposition gave themselves wiggle room today to digest the information thoroughly and give it proper consideration. So the government is holding its position, we're building the stadium, and the opposition just wants time to absorb. And what they'll absorb is a report that it illustrates $1.8 billion worth of debt. Now, the government will say it underestimates the economic benefits and the change in lifestyle that it would represent in Tasmania. But $1.8 billion is a shuddering figure which is not to be overlooked, particularly from the mainland. The other major objections seem to relate to the fact that it's a stadium. It's too big for the site, it'll change the landscape, and it won't be anything other than a stadium. So that was a weird part of the report, reading it. Of course it's a stadium, and it's... Anyway, so that's
history tells you, though, the new
debate.
stadiums that have been built in recent times have all encountered this level of opposition at its inception.
I absolutely recall this in Perth, and it took a Premier to stand firmly against all the objections for it, and now they have a magnificent stadium out of
Will they take that precedent into account?
I think they have. They have absorbed what's there in Perth and absorbed what's there in Adelaide. So if the opposition holds and remains with the bipartisan support, then it sits in the upper house where there are three independents who at no stage have tipped their hand. They're the neutrals, and one of those would likely have to vote yes. I think the view was that prior to today, two of them would have voted yes, and it would clear the upper house. Nobody knows how they will absorb this, what the community pressure will be like, and how they will vote at the end. So this was always going to be a vote of Parliament. This is the project of state significance. The planning project didn't have to grant any permits, and obviously there were no permits, but that's not the end of it. So on to the vote, and I've said this all, it either will or it won't pass.
So the opposition say no, it's over.
That part of it will be
What
over.
about there is another alternative?
Yeah, so I still think there's five possible outcomes. The stadium gets built. There's a compromise the stadium gets built without a roof, and they save $200 to $300 million, which is not to be sneezed at. Is there an alternative if this is seen as not the answer?
Which had some private equity attached to it.
would the AFL allow the team to have its licence without the stadium, which we know is a condition for the time being, or it all gets scrapped and there's a day where the AFL announces that the Tasmanian team won't go ahead?
Okay, I won't hold you to it, but where do you see it right now? Of those 5 alternatives, what's most likely?
I think it's a good question. I think it's a legitimate chance the stadium gets built without a roof as a compromise somewhere down the track. And I also think in my heart there won't be a day where the AFL cancels the licence. So if everything goes awry, I still think the team will play.
Okay, so in that instance, then you're charging on to 2028, and Nathan Buckley had significant words to say about it today with you.
Yeah.
So he's committed himself, if in fact they were to go down that path, that he's all in. Are they putting the cart ahead of the horse here or not? Or
No,
they have to do this?
I think they have to prepare themselves as if the team is going to happen, and I truly believe the team will happen. And then they had the meeting with Bucks yesterday, and this was the question that he couldn't answer for Melbourne. He answered unequivocally for Tasmania. If you were offered the Tassie job tomorrow, would you take it?
Yeah, well, see, that's probably the question that I asked myself before getting to the final position with Melbourne, and that's why I couldn't answer definitively with Melbourne. But, I mean, so yes, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. So I think Alistair Lynch has spoken about this today. Reports that he, again, this is not fair on Nathan that the job's his. He's already been guaranteed, which is not the case.
Nope.
And Alistair Lynch was strong in that today. So he will sit down and they will continue to go through that process to find out their man. So a VFL team comes into the competition next year, and then you would imagine the senior coach needs to get involved pretty early.
Yep. So there's a whole lot to be determined, and the main part of it is the politics around the stadium for the time being. All right, shall we delve deep? Simo and Horse.
I want them both. Get them up. I need to talk to them.
Yes. There's the whiff of revenge in the air here. I think Adam Simpson and John Longmire, who have been here as players, they've been here as coaches. They know the peculiar tension that is wrapped around preliminary finals. Surviving or being the vanquished.
No one feels more at home this weekend than these two. Geelong and Hawthorn, two of the modern-day powerhouses renewing hostilities for a spot in the 2025 Grand Final. And what a history between them. The brutal 80s headlined by this.
Yates came through the centre, didn't have eyes for the ball, just went straight at Brereton and has put him down.
The unforgettable opening bounce of that timeless classic decider.
What a courageous bar. There's the final. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just seen it. We had to carry on and just grind away at them and hoping the siren's going to go. The character does that.
But it was this century when the rivalry became truly mind-blowing. Combining for 7 premierships across 9 years. That's right, 7. The 2008 Grand Final.
That's what I'm talking about!
After Clarko's irrepressible Hawks surged past the reigning premiers, President Jeff sent this down the highway.
They don't have the psychological drive that we have. We've beaten Geelong when it mattered.
Sparking the beginning of an 11-game stretch. The Hawks paralysed by the Kennett curse, dropping the next 11 to the Cats. Can you believe 9 of them by less than 10 points?
Kennett's curse lives on.
It wasn't until the penultimate weekend of 2013 when the curse was finally lifted.
Burgoyne to put them in front.
That's why they call him Silk.
He doesn't miss. He's kicked free.
And here we go again. The two powerhouses back on the cusp of greatness. Preliminary final football with Anthony Hudson and Gerard Whateley calling the action.
That's the way we love it at the MCG on a Friday night.
Alongside Jason Dunstall and Garry Lyons. Best of the best in 4K Ultra HD right here on Fox Footy.
Stakes are high. They are into the grand final. To get them to the granny. This is what you live for as a footballer.
stir the passions, doesn't it?
What about that?
Oh. Adam Simpson and John Longmire have the weight of 18 preliminary finals throughout their history. Simo, welcome.
Good evening, boys.
Horse, great to have you with us.
Good to be there with you, gents.
Now, Gaz, you've been trawling the archive.
Only out of the fact that this is preliminary final weekend and we need to go deep into the history.
What did you find?
I went to 1997, a big prelim final that these two boys in. I went to the archive, I went to the vision. Let's have a look at Horse, just get himself physically up. He's playing on Stuart Lowe at centre half back, a bit of verbal, he's gobbing off at the umpire, he's up and about. And then Simo, courageously donning the long sleeve. He's got a big match up with Nicky Winmar here at half back. Look at the physicality. Watch Simo. Bang, look at him, puts him on his back. So then I think, well, they've talked the talk, the big two. Let's see him back it up. And then the next play I've looked at, the ball gets spit out. There's Nicky Winmar. I'm going, where's Simo? Nowhere. Ball goes long. Who's it going to? Oh, no, not Horse's man. Oh, it's gone to Lowe. Who then goes back and kicks a goal. I'm looking at my two boys. I'm going, they've let us down here. 3 to Winmar, 3 to Lowe. They lost by 31 points. I'm not pointing the finger at anyone. That's just what came up.
Good times.
Very good times. Very good return of serve, Gaz. Very good return of serve.
Mind you, there was
pressure on up the ground, we're all right.
There was much more good than bad. I had to work hard to find that.
Well done, well done. All right, so tell us about these games, Simo, as player and coach.
Well, look, I mean, there's two different... I mean, as a player, it started last week and halfway through the last quarter, both teams would have had... the game was sort of in hand, so it's like, don't get injured. It's what you're thinking with 15 minutes to go as a player. And you want to get through the week, the same thing. You want to get what you need to from a training point of view and hit all the metrics you normally hit. But in the back of your mind, it's like, just get through this week. Don't get sick. Don't get injured. Don't get food poisoning. So you're a little bit cautious. And you're really attentive in every meeting. I think players sometimes can drift in and out of being switched on when it comes to the team meetings, but everything is just dialed right up. So from that point of view and from a coaching point of view, I mean, you do run I don't think any of these coaches will, but you do run the risk of over-strategising the game. There's one or two moves that trust me, we'll talk about on Monday that are critical towards the success of whoever wins, but you can overdo it a little bit. So other than Sam, all the other coaches are quite experienced in this space, and I don't think Sam's one to overthink things either. So don't think that'll be an issue. Selection's big. There's always one or two selection pieces that are critical. And then there's the theme that sits in the background. That's been carrying on for a few weeks. And the last bit, which will be interesting this week, will be just that last bit of motivation of who you're playing. The backstory, the grand final a few years ago from Brisbane, Collingwood. Does Fags bring that up? Too old, too slow. Does Fly bring that up? And then the Geelong Hawthorn game, there's plenty of avenues they can pull.
John, for you're obviously, this time last year you were preparing as a coach, but maybe as a player first. So you lost a few prelims before you won one. Is there a certain desperation that builds during those years?
Oh, absolutely there is. Back in, I think the thing that I recall so much is the noise, a bit what Mitch said today in the press conference, is the noise of the 94 preliminary final when we played Geelong and Ablett kicked the goal just on the siren to beat us was incredible. And as a player, you are very much thinking about getting through that game as well as winning it. There's two things going through your mind. As a coach, the 2022 Collingwood prelim final here at the SCG, I was coach from the boundary line that game, and I have never heard a crowd like that. They were coming at us really hard in the last quarter. And we were really concerned with about 30 seconds to go, and the sound that was generated at the SCG that night was just something I'd never heard. And the tension that goes through that, and particularly as a coach, you start to feel the selection tension around this week, because obviously there's not many changes to a winning preliminary final team. So the selection tension that's around this week is real.
I asked Jeremy Howe last night about the fact that the game's been played, and depending on the state of the game, if it's tight, you're living in the moment. If you get a lead, how do you stop them from going, right, as they start to look forward, this is grand final time, it's there. How do you manage that?
It's a bit different for interstate teams as well, because from a coaching point of view, you got to brief this week just in case you make the grand final. So you got to get tickets, you got to get flights, you got to get family, and don't underestimate. It happened at Hawthorn. I was at Hawthorn in 13, and it did happen that week as well, where the prelim week you do have to listen. We need to just park 15 minutes and talk about what if we win, because there's a lot of organising that happens in the background, and you've got to address that even more so, Horse, when you're interstate side, because the flights and accommodation, all that's there. So the fact that Brisbane have gone through it, I think it's automatic, so it's fine. But when it happens the first time, you do get a little bit flustered, because you don't want to talk about if we win, how many tickets do you want? From a playing point of view, during the week for now, it's a little bit different if you're preparing, to your Melbourne side, but it does happen. You do start to think about what if, and staying present is so critical. And I feel like all these sides, even Hawthorn to a certain degree, are mature to the point where the coach will be trying to keep them in the moment every day, right up to the, when the siren goes after the game.
So your two most recents, John, one was an easy win after that thriller, and the stands shook that day in a really alarming way on the final siren at the SCG, which is getting a little bit old. What are the differences like to the ones that go right to the wire versus the ones that you've got under control?
The ones that you've got under control is very much in the last 15 minutes thinking about next week in a management sense. The players that may be of risk, that may have a limited preparation, or just your best players that's going through your mind. If you're 6 goals up, I think, which we were last year in the prelim final, those questions are being circulated in the box from about the 15-minute mark of the last quarter. You don't want to be getting ahead of yourself, and you don't want to take it for granted, but you've got a responsibility to plan. And those discussions with your medical staff, your conditioning staff, are happening ongoing during that last quarter. If you're well in front, clearly, when it's all chips in and you play down to the wire, it's your best players on and you've got the foot to the floor, so you don't have that luxury, I guess.
All right, you're going to make us smarter. One element from each game. John, you're the lead off here. What have you seen in Geelong's game? Who's the most important player to your eye?
Well, there's a lot of important players, and I didn't really select the most important player, just one that I really looked at in regards to a structural sense. It's a bit different than most teams. A lot of teams use their wings, particularly to get ground shape. Geelong seemed to use one wing in particular to be a bit more attacking and to really pull the opposition apart. And I looked at Ollie Dempsey a couple of weeks ago in his game against in Brisbane, and really, if we have a look now, he moves, he makes decisions earlier than any player really in the midfield that is currently playing this weekend. And his decisions to go against young Levi Ashcroft here were always quick. He's on the go all the time. His reaction time to run offensively is elite. And you can just see the gap he puts on young Levi just going forward hard. And it really pulls the opposition defence apart by him bursting forward. He does it quite regularly. You can just see from a stoppage, he's actually goal side here inside his forward 50. And the decision, if you make, just pause it there. And you can just see him make those quick decisions, reading the cues of his opponent, of his teammates up the ground who are on the right side of their opponents. And you can see that they're going to win it if we just keep it running now. He makes that decision so early, and he's able to burst outside there. Ashcroft gets caught in between a little bit, and you can just see the way he unsettles the opposition defence by being an attacking wingman, running forward hard. And this last one, Geelong quite, and maybe even at times you can take that luxury because they like to get an extra behind at times to support, particularly when you look at the visual delays that the opposition have in this particular instance. They look up, and it just puts a little bit of delay and uncertainty to what they're seeing ahead of the ball, the opposition, which forces a stop. And you can just see, once again, Dempsey making an early decision, which he can in this case because they've got support back behind the ball. And then the opposition defenders, the Brisbane defenders in this case, who are in front, are caught in no man's land. And you can just see him pulling the opposition defence apart by his proactiveness and his willingness to make good decisions, good attacking decisions early on. And, I'd love to see him against Whateley this week. It'd be a fascinating contest.
That might be at opposite ends of the ground. He's kicked 31 goals. 20 times he's kicked goals from 24 matches, and 10 times he's kicked more than one. So the attacking force. So how do you coach that? So Levi Ashcroft's looking at it going, well, I'm the winger. I've got to push up hard and get to the crumb or try to get numbers up to the outnumber, and he just stands behind him. So what do you say to Levi Ashcroft or whoever's playing on him in that instance?
Really, Gaz, it's about not getting caught in between. If you're going to go, and a couple of times young Levi is a great player, just got caught in between a couple of times. If you've got to go and you think you can influence up the ground, you go hard and you all chips in. You can't be caught halfway, because you know that if you're last to leave that stoppage, that he's probably just behind you. And so as the last opposition player, you need to make sure you swivel your head, because he will make that early decision to try and pull the opposition apart really quickly. And you need the blokes behind you to be aware of it as well.
Saturday, Simo, you've got the lead here on what you're seeing in the Lions.
Yeah, Horse has done the fun stuff. I'll do team defence, which is the stuff the players hate. But reality is, and this clip we'll start in a minute, all these clubs will be doing this, and this started several years ago, and we called it cyclone defence. So it pretty much... And you wonder why sometimes numbers are so high up the ground, and this is about a connected back line. So if you run the clip, you'll see, and this is Brisbane's team defence, I suppose, and this is the epitome of it. So there's a spare loose, he'll squeeze up, therefore the cascade starts, and then eventually there'll be a spare up the ground, of which you got Berry on the left-hand side, and you got a 2v1 on the right-hand side, and this is the modern game. So this is when, at a certain point, all defenders realise, I will press up to the spare on the skinny side where the ball is, and Berry's responsibility is to slide to give some help side support. So this is the modern game. This is why everything's crunched up, and eventually this ball gets kicked down the line. And there is a 2v1 here, but Berry's now not supporting that. He's there to support, if it does break through, to support that back line. So this is called help side support. He gets down there, he creates an extra number, and this is about a team that's really connected defensively, where he gets to intercept the game. So skinny side, you'll press up. Fat side, you'll slide back, and hence the cyclone type of look. I'm not quite sure if I explained that well enough, but it's complicated. But when the players get it right, and all these four teams will do that, they will press up to the most dangerous, knowing that there'll be support coming from the open side.
Yeah, and Geelong's ability to press up so aggressively in that first final against Brisbane was what Collingwood will go to work on. I've got no question about that. Their pressure and their heat and their ability to squeeze up and put pressure on their kickers through the middle of the ground is what ultimately might determine the game. And it's a really interesting one. The next part of the discussion is, we talk selection. So you got Howe and you got Hill potentially sitting there. What, again, we talked to you about this last week and the week before, what are the things you factor in?
Well, I'll have the first go at it, Simo. They would have had the ability from Collingwood in particular to be able to train for the last couple of weeks. So that's a good sign for those two. You'd imagine with Jeremy Howe putting his hand up that that discussion would be that he'd be likely to be selected if he was feeling well. And Hill maybe, it's tempting. You'd be sitting down having a discussion about a sub role and the repercussions of that if you get an early injury. So, those two are elite players, and this is what you need to do. And a lot of the discussions around finals times are how many can you take in that are underdone, and how much work have they done? And you don't really know that unless you're inside the four walls.
John,
the other debate. Oh, sorry. I'm saying the other debate will be. Not the guys who are outside the side. There'll be two or three players, Gerard, that will be borderline unavailable through injury. They're carrying something that I don't know if we can get through a game, and the player will be going through the anguish of putting his hand up, knowing he could be 5 minutes in and be sore or unavailable. So they're the ones I found more difficult dealing with. Is the player that perhaps shouldn't be playing, but we need him, and he'll play hurt.
John, just give us a closing word on the trade space. So we referenced it last night around players breaking long-term contracts and where the balance of power is at the moment and what might be done. Do you have a theory?
Well, there's certainly the players won't wouldn't support the clubs being able to trade without permission from the players, but they'll be absolutely adamant that never happens. And if you sign a long-term contract, at the moment the players still have the ability to be able to get through that contract clearly and be able to still make decisions about where they want to go and want out. I guess the question will be asked by some going forward, is there a way that in long-term contracts that the club has some say in that at some point in time? Maybe a 7 or 8 year deal, do you get to year 5 or 6 and you're able to have the club actually still be able to have a say in where those players go if they wanted to trade them, understanding that the players wouldn't be in favour of that. However, the contract is still honoured, and I just wonder whether those discussions will be happening. I certainly wouldn't be getting much traction with the Players Association, but I'm sure the club.
I think that was pretty clear with Patrick Dangerfield last night. Great to have you both with us, and we look forward to seeing you at the desk in grand final week.
See you guys.
Howdy, boys.
Adam Simpson and John Longmire with us as we look into those preliminary finals. That will be the theme of tomorrow night's First Crack preview. Kingy, Joey and Ben Dixon to analyse all the possibilities, the what-ifs, the prevailing trends in these 2 games that are coming.
They're arguably the hardest game to win. Both sides understand what's at stake and what is around the corner.
This is the purest weekend of footy.
You put yourself in the arena, fully understanding that you might get knocked down, but it's a risk you've got to take.
The anthem finishes and you feel the energy go through the ground up your legs. You've got to do that little warm-up and you follow, you're not even sure if your legs are working, and then it's chaos. When you lose them, no matter if you're favourite or the underdog, it's a devastation. It's like being impaled, is how I would sort of describe it.
Right on the boundary line, shooter. He will kick after the siren. Oh my goodness me.
It's not fair. We'll get used to it. Want life to be fair. You're going to have a tough life.
There's the kick. It's a goal. It's a goal. Hawthorn have won.
When you can have success, it's so sweet because it's difficult, because there is a lot of pressure, because if you fail, it'll hurt more than you can comprehend.
Stakes so high. Ball flies it on the boots. He's kicked a magnificent goal out of that pocket.
In the back of your mind, you know there's a grand final at stake.
I think it's really tough to watch the grand final when you know that you're good enough to be there.
If you hear anyone say, "Oh, there's nothing to lose," that phrase needs to go in the bin.
But it makes the success so much more sweet.
Greatest games to win and the hardest games to win.
I'm not sure how much easier I want it to be.
To get the joy, you have to risk the pain this weekend, and that comes with emotional baggage. So representation of the emotional baggage of the AFL fan family, and the man who is the ambassador for it. He wears it so raw, doesn't he?
An inspired choice, Gerard.
Dave
inspired choice.
Thank you, legends. It's great to be here. It's obviously we're nearly there. This is the time of year that we all focus, and I'm super pumped about the prelim finals and the final series in general.
You're just super pumped to be here, let's be honest, given your last 3 weeks.
Yes, I had a big moment at the Marvel Stadium a few weeks ago, so it's 3 weeks tomorrow. So, yeah, where I played in the Legends game and ended up getting quite injured. But before I got injured and after I got injured, I heard the roar of 30,000 people. And it was an experience like nothing else. I remember when Luke Hodge kicked me the ball and there was 30,000 people saw it was me, so they all were roaring because there's a clown coming for the ball. And when it bounced off my chest, I heard 30,000 people laugh and I didn't like it. So I tried to make up for that.
How do you handle it when your beloved Blues were involved in these big games?
Well, it's only been a couple of years when the Blues did, we got to the prelims. So the semi-final against Melbourne that night, where I was hugging Stephen Kernahan after the final siren, and we thought that, our time was coming. So that's why this year has been so hard for Carlton supporters, who are really now having to deal with, what we hope is not the end of our rise, because it didn't get to where we wanted it to go.
Didn't quite get there.
So this is a fun installation that Mitchell and Ness have put together to represent the emotional baggage, the scarring that the fan bases carry.
Yes, and so you can go to mitchellandness.com.au and see where your team is on the list. So and there's been some arguments about who should be number one. St Kilda have ended up number one because of one premiership in that long history of that club. So I was talking to Nick Rewald about that this morning, actually, and he did not want to be reminded.
I hope you didn't mention the smothered kick. He would have hurled you out of the studio. You've got Fremantle up there. That's a young team that are carrying a lot of baggage if they're second.
Well, I didn't put it together, but there is some sort of, I don't know who did it, to be honest, but they've got a scientific method of doing it. But, Fremantle, they had really one chance, 2013 and Fife, who just retired, legend of that club. But I think he would lie in bed at some nights thinking about those goals he missed early in that game. Because Fremantle had focused on that game. Maybe that Hawthorn three-peat wouldn't have happened. Because there was skeletons for Hawthorn. They got beaten in 2012. And if Freo had have done 2013, maybe... I don't know, there's so many maybes.
I wonder if there are games where the baggage factor, like if you've highlighted a couple of games where the emotional baggage, you want to go back to 1987 just to really kick the Demon supporters?
Well, I saw the footage there of Buckenara kicking the goal in there, and I was there as a 16-year-old from Warrnambool to get a grand final ticket. Back then you had to buy a series ticket, so you had to buy a ticket for every round of the finals, and me and my cousin Joe were at that game. And it was pandemonium at Waverley. And when he kicked that goal, and we got a bus, so you had to get a bus out of the ground. And that's, to this day, the saddest bunch of people I've ever seen were Melbourne supporters on that bus, just crying, knowing that Robbie Flowers' dream was over. Yeah. It was, and you weren't playing?
No, I was sad. I was very sad.
What do you think, Gerard? If he had been playing that day, he probably would have got the job done.
Yes, the broken leg proved very costly. I am surprised Melbourne are only 14th on this list, given that
you've emptied a lot of baggage out on the back of one premiership. I suppose it does cure a lot of ills when you do eventually.
Well, and it was also recency bias because it was only a couple of years ago, and we know that a lot of Melbourne supporters thought they had a dynasty now.
Yeah.
And
the baggage is building quickly.
But the guy who ended up in jail does not regret going to jail in Perth, does he? He got to see that game.
No, he does not.
So Carlton's third, but you have had your moments on this weekend. Is one of your favourite ever moments in a preliminary final?
Look, the 99 definitely was. I was there that day. That was extraordinary. That was... actually, the Melbourne supporters and the Essendon supporters after that game, they were flat.
They were red-hot favourites.
Oh, no doubt about it. Actually, and there's not many times where you can say a prelim final feels like a grand final, but that was certainly one of them. And, Carlton supporters are still revelling in that day, even though a week later North Melbourne got the job done. And I heard that siren, I heard the North Melbourne theme song on that grand final day while I was walking past the Hilton Hotel, because I did not want to be there for that.
No, just looking at all these great... You can recount them straight away, can't you?
You can.
We should have these running on our studio, on a loop, non-stop.
You give me any team, I'll tell you their saddest moment. Yeah. Seriously.
What about that floating ball you just talked about, the Gary Ablett one-hander, that just floated over the head of Mickey Martin by a fraction? And then the most unbelievable thing was Andrew Wills telling Gary Ablett what to do. He goes back and kicks a goal. That is what makes this weekend the anticipation, because that inches.
Yeah, it is inches.
Destroyed the day.
And I know, and I mean, Geelong would have been so much higher apart from, well, obviously they got it together from 2007, but they've had a lot of heartbreak, the Cats, as well. Before that, they were perennial sort of chokers, you felt like. So even though all those grand final losses.
Is Carlton's time coming, Hughesy? Are you holding a candle? It's been 30 years.
Again, we were brutalised by this year. We're brutalised by the Richmond loss in round 1. It was just devastating, and the year was tough. So Vossi's got a chance to regroup, and they just need to... Anyway,
if I put you in charge of the list, what are you doing with Charlie?
He's got to get his mind right.
On the fence. You trading him or not?
I was annoyed by Charlie this year. We're watching the games where he was not...
So you're trading him?
You're
trading him, man.
I don't want to see him... I love Charlie, and if he can get... I remember back on the Footy show, back in the day when I was on that show, in his first year, I said to him, mate, I believe in you. I think something can happen here. And we did believe him for so long. He can still do it. Come back, Charlie. I want it back.
It's emotional, man. That's what it's about.
That's emotional.
This is the great ambassador for this initiative.
Perfectly suited, Hughesy. It's great to see you.
Good to see you, mate.
Good on you.
Heal up well.
Yes, it's taken a while.
Is that mine, by the way?
That is yours. So that's...
Thank you. Don't just stand there with it in front of you.
Give
it to me.
Well, can you put it on at some point?
Yeah, it's outstanding. And this is a Mitchell and Ness special?
Yeah, mate.
I'll do the promo.
The retro stuff is just exceptional. Awesome. So mitchellandness.com.au, go and have a look at it. Yep. There's something for every club, and it just takes you back. I gave Nick Cody from Fox FM the Bomber jacket from 2000. He didn't realise that was his last good day. So many clubs didn't realise when their era was over.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Great to see you. Good on you. The emotional baggage ladder and the right ambassador for it, Dave Hughes. Monday night, we're at the earlier time of 6 p.m, Brownlow medal night. So we'll talk the grand final. We'll review what's happened in the prelims. Damien Hardwick is going to join us, and we'll just wait to see how results pan out from there. The earlier time of 6 p.m, AFL 360 on Brownlow medal nights to start grand final week. Time for our points bet update with Bernie Vince. Bernie, welcome.
Thanks, Jared. Prelim finals weekend, and what a cracker Friday night. Geelong v Hawthorn. As you can see, the market slightly with the Cats at the moment. I think that should be a little bit tighter, though. The Hawks are bringing their best late in the season, high-pressure team. Throw in a bit of rain. I think this one's going to be a tight contest. I like either team by 15 points or less. $2.60 you can get at PointsBet. I reckon that's great value. Now on to Saturday night. Collingwood v Brisbane, the last two premiership teams. Now, the last 4 matches between these two have all been unders. And the last 10 matches Collingwood have played full stop have been unders too. So I like the unders bet for this one. Plus Brisbane, #1 disposal team in the competition the last 5 weeks. So I had a look at Dane Zorko, 25 plus in 6 of his last 8 at the MCG. I like him for 25 plus. I think that's great value for SGMs as well. You can find all those odds plus a whole heap more on the PointsBet app. Enjoy the footy.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Get into open space. Watson closed it, pulls it around. It's coming, it's coming! That's remarkable! A little piece of magic from Nick Watson.
Tossed up, Meeks slaps it down in the path of Watson, who's broken away from Miller. Off balance, he's curling it towards goal. That is marvellous! The wonderful Wizard of Oz. Nick Watson turns to the crowd. Hawthorn up by 7.
Ball up, Ruppen had a piece. Here's Watson pouncing onto the football. He can do the miraculous, Watson, and he has done the miraculous. What a goal! He says, look at me, how good am I?
Chance for the Hawks. O'Brien slaps it away. Running onto it is Watson. Tough angle. Has a ping at the goals. It's coming back! He's kicked a miracle goal! The Wizards got 2! Unbelievable!
The Maccas quad call. Nick Watson will be part of the action on Friday night. Our weekend picks, thanks to PointsBet. What is your preliminary final headline?
Crows hold a September intra-club just so they can win a quarter. And I know that's unfair, Adelaide Crows supporters, but you can't not win a quarter in 2 finals and not expect the cop of a stick.
That's right.
What do you got?
Jeff gives the pre-match address to the Cats.
Jeff,
we've beaten Geelong when it matters.
Yes, exactly. Gee, that age well.
Plot twist?
Boffers offer any hawk $1 million a year. Straight up, first in, best dressed, doesn't matter. Here's $1 million, someone come back to us.
Vacancy.
Someone's got to come back.
I've got Cozzy wants out of his 9-year contract before even playing a game.
I don't even joke about that, Jared. That's the way it's heading. My last buck is going on the Pies. Okay. I'm just I'm maintaining the faith with not much confidence. You?
All right, I'm going closest to the pin, roulette style. 195,670
Awesome.
Combined crowd.
Yep, and that's 95 plus. I hope at both games.
Great.
It'd be awesome. Can't wait to come back and talk all about it on Monday.
Earlier time, 6 p.m. Let's head to the midweek tackle with Lauren Wood.